fox concubine. It is said that Liu Dongju from Laiwu, Shandong Province, was an official in Fenzhou, Shaanxi Province. One day, while he was sitting alone in his mansion, he heard people talking and laughing in the courtyard, getting closer and closer. He looked up and saw 4 women coming in, one in his 40s, one in his 30s, another in his 20s, and finally a girl with no hair tied. They all stood in front of the table, looking at each other and smiling. Liu Gong knew that there were many foxes in the government, so he ignored them. After a while, the girl took out a red gauze scarf and threw it in Mr. Liu's face as a joke. Liu Gong picked it up and threw it under the window, but still ignored them. The 4 women laughed and laughed. One day, the oldest woman came to Liu Gong's room and said to him, "My sister is destined to you, please don't dislike her." Liu Gong casually agreed, and the woman laughed. In a blink of an eye, she let a maid and came over with the girl in her arms. She asked the girl to sit down side by side with Liu Gong and said, "You two are such a good couple. Let's get married tonight. Serve Liu Lang well, I'm leaving." Liu Gong looked at the girl carefully and saw that she was extremely beautiful, so he made love with her. Asking the woman origin again, the girl said, "I am not a human being, but I am actually a human being. I am the daughter of a former state official. I was deceived by foxes and died of injuries. I was buried in the garden. The foxes used magic to save me. So I'm like a fox." After hearing this, Mr. Liu touched her back with his hand. The woman noticed it and said with a smile, "You think I have a tail, right?" She turned around and said, "Please touch it." From then on, the girl couldn't stay, and she was with the little maid in every move she made. Everyone in the family treats her like a young lady. When the maids and women came to pay their respects, she gave many rewards. Once Liu Dongju celebrated his birthday, many people came to celebrate his birthday. There were more than 30 banquet tables in total, and many chefs had to be hired, but only 1 or 2 of the chefs agreed in advance came. Liu Gong was very angry after the woman found out. She said to Liu Gong, "Don't worry. Since there are not enough cooks, why not send away the 2 who came? Although I am not very capable, it is not difficult to host more than 30 tables." After hearing this, Mr. Liu turned from worry to joy and hurriedly sent people to move fish, meat, vegetables, seasonings, and other items to the inner courtyard. The family members could only hear the clanging of knives, tables, and frying spoons inside. A table was placed inside the door, and the serving servant placed the tray on it. In a blink of an eye, the dishes were filled. More than a dozen servants come and go, but there is still an unlimited supply. Finally, the servant came to ask for soup cakes, only to hear the woman inside say, "Master didn't ask for soup cakes in advance. How could he bring them out immediately in such a hurry?" Then he said, "It doesn't matter. Let's borrow them first." After a while, the woman called the servant to come get the soup cake. When everyone took a look, more than 30 bowls of steaming soup cakes were placed on the table. After the guests left, the woman said to Liu Gong, "Take out the money and repay the money for the soup cakes of a certain family." Liu Gong hurriedly sent someone to deliver the soup cake money. That family lost their soup cake. Just when they were wondering, the person who sent the money arrived, and the mystery was solved. One night, while Mr. Liu was drinking, he suddenly remembered that he wanted to drink the bitter wine from his hometown. The woman said she was going to get it, and then went out and laughed. After a while, he came back and said, "There is a jar outside the door that will last you a few days." When Liu Gong went out, he saw that there was indeed a jar of wine. It was really the Wangde spring in his hometown. A few days later, Liu Gong's wife sent 2 servants to Fenzhou. On the way, a servant said, "I heard that Mrs. Fox has a lot of rewards. If I get the reward this time, I can buy a leather coat to wear." The woman knew this in the Fenzhou official office and said to Liu Gong, "The people sent from my family are coming soon. I hate this slave for being rude. I must punish him." Tomorrow, as soon as the 2 servants entered the city, one of them suddenly had a headache. When he arrived at the government office, he held his head in pain and screamed. Everyone wanted to give him medicine, but Liu Gong smiled and said, "No treatment is needed. He will be cured naturally in due time. Everyone suspected that they had offended the little lady. The servant thought to himself, I haven't put down my things when I first arrived. Where is my sin? With nowhere to complain, I had to kneel down and beg for mercy. I only heard someone say from inside the curtain, if you call me madam. Just call me madam. Why do you add the word fox? The servant suddenly understood and kowtowed repeatedly to apologize. Then he heard someone say, since you want leather clothes, how can you be rude? Then he said, your headache is gone. As soon as he finished speaking, the servant's head stopped hurting. He quickly thanked and was about to leave. Suddenly I saw a package thrown out from the curtain, and it said, this is a lambskin coat. You can take it. The servant opened it and saw that there were 5 taels of silver in the bag. Liu Gong asked about the situation at home, and the servant replied that everything was safe at home, but one day a jar of hidden wine was missing. Calculating the date of the loss, it was the night when the woman got the wine. Everyone is afraid of the little lady's magical power and calls her Holy Fairy. Liu Gong also painted a portrait for her. At that time, Zhang Daoyi was the academic envoy of Fenzhou and heard about these strange things. So he went to see Liu Dongzhu in the name of a fellow villager and asked to see the young lady. The woman refused to see him. Liu Gong took out her portrait and showed it to Zhang Qiang. Zhang Qiang took it and left. After Zhang returned home, he hung up the portrait and prayed to it every day. With your beauty and temperament, who can't you go with? You want to go with an old man with white hair. I am worse than Liu Dongzhu in any way. Why don't you come and see me? What about me? The woman suddenly said to Mr. Liu in the state capital. Mr. Zhang is rude to me. I must give him some punishment. One day, when Zhang Zheng was praying to the statue, he felt as if someone had hit him with a ruler. He felt a headache on his forehead and felt as if it was about to split open. He was extremely frightened and quickly sent someone to return the portrait. Liu Gong deliberately asked the reason, but the visitor concealed the truth and did not tell the truth. Liu Gong smiled and said, doesn't your master's forehead hurt? Seeing that he couldn't hide it, the visitor had no choice but to tell the truth. Not long after, Liu Gong's son-in-law Qi Sheng came and wanted to see the young lady. The woman refused and disappeared. Qi Sheng repeatedly asked to see him, and Liu Gong said to the woman, my son-in-law is not a stranger, so why can't I see him? The woman replied, when my son-in-law comes to see me, I must give him something. But his wish is too high. I guess I can't satisfy him, so I don't want to see him. Later, the son-in-law insisted on seeing him, so he was allowed to wait 10 days to meet him. The appointed date arrived. Qi Sheng entered the room and saluted through the curtain, saying some greetings. He only saw the vague appearance of the little lady, and he didn't dare to take a closer look, so he resigned. After taking a few steps, he couldn't help but look back. I just heard the woman say, my son-in-law has turned around. After saying that, he burst out laughing, his voice sounding like an owl hooting. After hearing this, Qi Sheng was so frightened that his legs became weak, and he staggered, as if he had lost his soul. After going out, he sat for a long time before he finally calmed down and said, when I heard the laughter just now, it was like a thunderclap that shook my ears. I didn't feel that my body was my own anymore. After a while, a maid gave Qi Sheng 20 taels of silver as ordered by the woman. After Qi Sheng accepted it, he said to the maid, Shengshen lives with my father-in-law. Don't you know that I have always been a spendthrift and I am not used to spending small money? When the woman heard this, she said, I knew he was this kind of person. Last time the money bag was empty, my companions and I went to Kaifeng. The city was flooded and all the silver stored in the warehouse was submerged in the water. We each salvaged a little bit of silver. How could we satisfy his greedy demands? Besides, I can give him more, but his blessing is too meager and he cannot bear it. A woman can know everything in advance. Whenever Liu Gong encounters a difficult problem, he always discusses it with her and solves it. One day when she was sitting with Liu Gong, she suddenly looked up at the sky and said in shock, a disaster is coming. What should we do? Liu Gong was surprised and asked about the good or bad luck of his family. The woman said, Everyone else is fine, but the second young master is worrying. This place will soon become a battlefield, and you should ask for an errand to go to a distant place to avoid disaster. Liu Gong followed her suggestion and asked his superiors to allow him to go to Yunnan and Guizhou with food and salary. The trip was a long one, and when others heard about it, they expressed concern for him, but the woman congratulated him. Soon, Zhongquan rebelled and Fenzhou was occupied by bandits. Liu Gong's second son came from Shandong and was killed when he caught up with this incident. After the fall of Fenzhou City, all officials, large and small, were killed. Only Mr. Liu was spared because he was on a business trip. After quelling the rebellion, Liu Gong came back. Later, he was implicated in a major case and punished, and was too poor to eat. Those in power tried to extort money, so Liu Gong wanted to die. The woman advised him, "Don't worry, there are still 3,000 taels of silver under the bed, which can be used to live." Liu Gong asked happily, "Where did you come from?" The woman replied, "There is an endless supply of things that have no owner in the world, so why steal it?" Liu Gong relied on the woman's strategy to return to his place of origin. The woman also followed. A few years later, the woman suddenly left, leaving behind a paper bag containing several things. Among them was a small flag about 2 inches long that was hung on the door during the funeral. Everyone thought it was an ominous sign. Sure enough, Liu Dongju died of illness soon after.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.